In 1926, a dark wizard named Gellert Grindelwald terrorized the wizarding community in Europe. The terror of Gellert Grindelwald continued to spread to various regions, put the witches on national alert. With so much news spread, residents in New York held anti-witchcraft protests to rid the city of the power of magic. The scene then switches to our main character, Newt Scamander, a Hogwarts graduate wizard who travels to New York. Newt is carrying his suitcase full of magical creatures, and when Newt checks in, he changes the contents of his suitcase to muggles, which makes the contents of his suitcase look normal. The officer then allows Newt to continue his journey. In the city, Oros, named Percival Graves, inspects a building that is being destroyed. Suddenly, an invisible force runs through the walls of the building and damages the streets through which it passes and disappears. Meantime, Newt is walking on the edge of New York City. He accidentally heard an oration from the anti-magic, led by Mary Lou Barbone. While Mary is expressing his hatred and protesting the existence of witches, Newt sees one of his animals, named Niffler, has come out of his suitcase. Niffler takes some money from the beggar and goes inside the bank, forcing Newt to go after him. At the bank, Newt accidentally meets Jacob Kowalski, a factory worker who wants to loan money to open his bakery. Newt continues to pursue Niffler, who keeps stealing coins and gold, but by accident, Newt drops a Canis egg, which Jacob eventually retrieves. While Newt pursuing Niffler, on the other hand, Jacob met with a bank employee and applied for a loan. Still, the bank rejected his request because Jacob did not have any collateral. Jacob then walks out of the room and tells Newt that his strange egg is about to hatch. Newt then pulls out his wand and pulls Jacob towards him. Unwittingly, Newt's actions become known to an Auror named Porpentina Goldstein. Newt then puts the Okami baby in his suitcase and sees Niffler enter the vault. When Newt wanted to open a bank vault, his action was known to a bank employee, who immediately rang the emergency bell. Newt deftly incapacitates the officer with a spell, and Newt finally manages to catch Niffler. The security officer arrives when Newt returns all of Niffler's stolen goods. Newt immediately takes Jacob to move places with teleportation. Because Jacob is a muggle and he has seen magic, Newt intends to erase Jacob's memory. However, Jacob unexpectedly hits Newt and immediately runs away. Newt is then captured by Tina, who has been watching Newt. Tina says that Newt should not use magic in a public place. Tina then takes Newt to MACUSA. MACUSA stands for Magical Congress of the United States of America. Upon arrival, Tina reports Newt's case to a MACUSA director named Serafina Picquery. However, her report is rejected because Tina is no longer an Auror in MACUSA. Tina then takes Newt to her old office, where she meets with Graves. Tina then tells Graves about Newt's suitcase, which contains fantastic creatures. But when opened, the suitcase contains only bread, meaning Newt's suitcase has been exchanged for Jacob's. On the other hand, Jacob, who arrived at his apartment, noticed that his suitcase was moving. Jacob then opened the suitcase and was immediately attacked and bitten by Murtlap and released other animals such as Demiguises, Okami, and Erumpent. Moments later, Newt and Tina found Jacob's ruined apartment. Newt immediately enters Jacob's apartment and discovers that Murtlap bit Jacob's neck. Newt then fixes Jacob's apartment and catches Murtlap. Tina then takes Jacob to her apartment for treatment. At Mary's residence, she distributes food to orphans while giving a warning about witches. After eating, London invited Mary to the newspaper publisher's office to meet with Henry, who was talking with one of his sons who became a senator named Henry Shaw Jr. London explains that Mary asked Henry to publish news about the dangers of witchcraft. Of course, Henry refused her request because Henry knew witchcraft was not real. They are then expelled by Senator Shaw, who denigrates one of Mary's children, named Credence, as a freak. Newt and Jacob arrive at Tina's apartment. They are greeted by Tina's sister, Queenie, an expert mind reader. Then Queenie invites Newt and Jacob to have dinner together. Jacob was amazed when he saw Queenie using her magic ability to cook. After they finished eating, the two rested in Tina's room. But Newt went straight into his suitcase and asked Jacob to come in. The suitcase turns out to be very spacious, and Newt gives Jacob medicine to heal the bite on Jacob's neck. Newt then showed one of his animal collections, named Frank, a thunderbird. Frank becomes Newt's reason for coming to New York, because Newt wants to release Frank to his natural habitat in Arizona. Jacob is then introduced to other animals, such as bowtruckles, green twigs that can unlock anything, graphorn, creatures such as horses, Akinis, and many more. The reason Newt keeps these magical animals is that they are all endangered caused of wild hunting. Accidentally, Jacob found a snowy room. In that room, there is a magical parasite called Obscurus. Obscurus has a very dark power that will react more strongly if it enters the witch's body as its host, and the host will be referred to as an Obscurial. Newt then asks Jacob to assist him in catching the escaped animal. Jacob agreed to the request. On the other hand, Graves secretly meets with Credence. Graves enlists Credence's help to find a child who is the host of the Obscurus. Graves knows that the destruction of the building at the beginning was the work of Obscurial. Graves then promises that if Credence finds the child, he will teach Credence witchcraft and protect him from Mary's torment. We go back to Newt and Jacob. While the two explore the city, they see Nifflers robbing a jewelry store. Newt immediately chases Niffler and causes damage to that store. After being caught, the police arrive. But the police's attention is distracted when a lion passes in front of them. Newt takes this opportunity to teleport to the city zoo, where he sees many animals roaming around. Newt knows that this is Arumpin's doing. Newt then gives Jacob a protective suit and perfume to attract Arumpin's attention. Newt then performs a dance to attract Arumpin's attention. But accidentally, Jacob opens the perfume and makes him chased by Arumpint. Fortunately, Newt managed to enter Arumpint while it chased Jacob. A few moments later, Tina saw the two go into the suitcase. Tina immediately took the suitcase and took it to Macusa. At the same time, Henry Shawn was campaigning and was going to run for president of the United States. In the middle of the campaign, the building suddenly shakes and an Obscurus appears, damaging the entire building and killing Senator Shawn. Tina arrives in Macusa, enters the meeting room, and there she meets the members of Magic Masters around the world who are conducting a meeting. Tina then calls Newt and Jacob from the suitcase, saying that Newt is releasing his magical animals and causing trouble. Serafina then explains to Tina that Senator Saw has just been killed, and she thinks that Newt's animals were behind it all. Of course, Newt denies that because the wound on Saw's face is not from an animal attack, but from an Obscurus. Seraphine says that there is no Obscurial in New York. Serafina then keeps Newt, Jacob, and Tina detained. In the cell, Newt explains about the Obscurus. Obscurus is a dark force that will emerge with the body of a witch who experiences violence. Children who become Obscurial will not live more than 10 years. Newt and Tina are then taken to the interrogation room, while Jacob is unceremoniously released. Graves begins interrogating Newt by showing him the Obscurus from Newt's suitcase and using it as evidence that Newt caused Shaw's death. Newt says that his Obscurus has no host and no power. However, Graves remains adamant and gives Newt and Tina the death penalty. Queenie heard the news, and she immediately rushed away. Newt and Tina arrive at the execution site, where in the room there is a dead pool. Then one of the witches begins to extract Tina's memories, showing Tina's past and the reason why she was fired from Auror. Before Tina gets killed, Newt unlocks his handcuffs with the help of Bowtruckle. After being freed, Newt attacks the witches with the help of his animals and manages to rescue Tina, and they quickly escape the place. On the other hand, Queenie meets Jacob, who is carried away by the officer. Then Queenie takes over and brings Jacob to retrieve Newt's suitcase. Newt and Tina then meet Queenie and Jacob. Queenie asks Newt, Jacob, and Tina to get into the suitcase so Queenie can take them out. After making it out, they hide above Jacob's apartment. Newt is worried about his animals that have yet to be found. Tina then advises Newt to see an informant who may know of Newt's animal whereabouts. Then they go to the club, where Newt meets an informant named Narlac. Narlac knows the location of Newt's animal, but Narlac does not want to tell him. Newt has to pay the price. Narlac asks for Newt's Bowtruckle, and Newt reluctantly gives his Bowtruckle. Narlac then tells Newt the location of the animal, and at the same time, comes the Macusa officers who want to arrest Newt and his friends. Jacob, who was drunk, then hit Narlak in the face and took the bowtruckle back. Then the four of them fled. At Mary's residence, Credence accidentally finds a magic wand in one of his sister's rooms. At the same time, Mary appears, who immediately breaks the wand and wants to punish Credence using a belt. But instantly, an Obscurus attacks Mary and kills her. Newt and his friends arrive at the location, where they find a demiguise called Dougal. Demiguise can predict the future using her eyes. Newt then discovers that his demiguise is babysitting Archimedes. Archimedes can grow and shrink according to the size of the space. When Newt wants to put the Archimedes in a suitcase, Dougal sees the future, where Queenie accidentally kicks the ball, which makes Archimedes become aggressive. A few seconds later, it happened. Then Newt asks Jacob and Tina to find insects and a teapot. After struggling, they manage to put a cami in a teapot and put it in a suitcase. Elsewhere, Graves goes to Mary's residence to look for Credence, but instead, he finds Mary's dead body and meets Credence, who looks terrified by what just happened. Graves asks Credence to help him find his sister, who is in danger. During his search, Graves withdraws his promise to Credence because Graves knows that Credence has had a talent for magic since birth, but does not have the power to control it. Hearing that, Credence becomes angry and sad. Graves eventually finds Credence's frightened sister. At the same time, the power of the Obscurus appears and destroys the wall that reveals Credence. It turns out that the Obscurial that Graves had been looking for was Credence. Credence then goes downtown and causes damage. Seeing Credence's movements, Newt immediately goes in pursuit to save him. Newt reaches the ground station and tries to calm Credence, saying that Newt can save him. When Credence begins to calm down, Graves arrives and attacks Newt directly, which makes Credence start turning into Obscurus again and go on a rampage destroying the city. Then Tina comes and comforts Credence, but Seraphina and the witches of Macusa arrive and instantly attack Credence. As a result of the barrage of attacks, Credence's Obscurus was finally destroyed. However, it makes Graves angry and disappointed in Macusa for killing Obscurus. Graves actually wants chaos and war with the human race because he thinks the witches are stronger and not worth hiding. Graves then starts attacking Macusa. Luckily, with his animals' help, Newt can capture Graves and use his spells to reveal the true form of Grave, who turns out to be Gellert Grindelwald, and Macusa immediately arrests and imprisons him. Now that the Muggles know about magic's existence, Newt asks Frank to bring a potion to erase the memories of New York citizens by using his power to control the weather to make it rain. The Aurors also use their magic to rebuild the city. Then Seraphina also reminds Newt to erase Jacob's memories as well. Jacob then said goodbye to all of them, and Jacob started walking towards the rain, which made him forget all about it. The next day, when Jacob went to work, someone ran over him. As he was about to stand up, Jacob realized that his suitcase had become heavier than before. Once opened, the contents of the Cooper were a shell of Archimedes made of real silver. In it, Newt wrote a message that the shell could be made as Jacob's guarantee to open his bakery. Newt is returning to London and says goodbye to Tina in the harbor. Newt promises to come back after he finishes his book. A few weeks later, Jacob's bakery business flourished, and there he meets Queenie, who makes Jacob smiles. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you like this video. See you in the next episode.